from a gateway. That's the only thing you can build. And then you build your Cybernetical, which is this, and you can build your Sentry and your Stalker. And that's it. And then once you move on to that, the Cybernetical allows you to tech to 3 different types of tech routes. You have your Stargate, which is your air units, your robotics, your robotics facility, which is your ground stuff pretty much, and then your Twilight Council, which is your gateways but upgraded units for your for your gateways. And then of course they each have their own individual. Like if you go for your Stargate, you can get a fleet beacon, which gives you carriers. If you go for the robotics bay, you're allowed Colossus. If you go for your Twilight Archives or your Dark Shrine, you're allowed different type of Templars, which once again I'll show you now. So yeah, the first unit we're going to look at is the Zealot, which is a very interesting unit. The Zealot is one of the, I know, well, loads of people hate it, loads of people love it. It's quite a fair unit, and it does a lot of damage. Do not underestimate Zealots. If you're wondering why they might be so, I need to build that. Why they're so feared? They do a lot of damage, but their attacks are melee, which means they actually have to physically be touching the unit. So you can attack it if it's far away, and they're not fairly fast either. So you need upgrades for these. So yeah, as you can see, he has these things called Psyblades. Those are his attack. He does a standard of 8 damage per blade. Because he has 2 of them, it does 16 damage per attack at 1.2 speed. You know, his speed is 2.25 in terms of his movement. And you can get upgrades. One is called Charge, which is really good. You know, and then you can get your weapon upgrades. Like upgraded Zealots do so much damage. And if you're wondering what this Charge is, it pretty much gives him a shot of adrenaline when he goes to attack his opponent. So now this fusion core is my enemy, so if I attack him onto that, when he gets in close range, he's gonna woof. Yeah. But you didn't really see it too much. Let's do it on him. So yeah, same way. So yeah, there's a few mechanics of this. This is called Charge. One, it increases his standard speed, speed, which is very good anyway, but the charge itself it has a cooldown of 10 seconds, so it can only be used every 10 seconds, and it has an important mechanic, and that is once a Zealot charges, it will not stop charging until it hits its opponent. So pretty much, if say I go after him and then he gets blocked by a unit or he runs away, like I'm gonna continue to chase him and it won't stop until he dies pretty much. Okay, so that's the Zealot. Next is gonna be the Sentry. Sentry is a very funky unit, and a lot of people complain about the Sentry because it has some abusive casts. Because as you can see, it has mana once again, so of course it can do spells. Let me just get all the spells. It has hallucination, which is done at the Cybernetical. So here is a couple of them. One is called Force Field, and that pretty much puts a blob of well, it's a blob of psionic energy in the lore, but it pretty much nothing can walk through this. And these last 15 seconds. Well, actually, I say nothing can walk through this. Only the biggest units in the game can walk through these. So as you can see, I just can't walk through it. And these are very good because they give you obviously strategic play. They allow you to control ground. They can deny places where an opponent can go. And obviously, if you look at something like the force fields mixed with the Zealots, if say the Zealot is charging a unit and then the Sentry force fields behind that unit will stop dead and the Zealot can get on top of him, sandwich him and kill it very efficiently. So that's one thing of the Sentry. The next one is Guard and Shield, and this one's not, you're not really going to get to see this one so easily. What happens is, if I go to attack this Sentry with my Stalker, this big ball of bubble, anything that's a ranged attack will be reduced by 2. So that's very good. So something like a marine, for example, or wherever a marine is. A marine does 6 damage as standard, but through a guardian shield it does 4. So that's a 33% decrease, which is quite a significant amount, especially against marines because they fire so fast. That's why the sentries are so good. And then the last one is called hallucination, which is how it sounds. You can hallucinate any unit. Well, you can hallucinate a large majority of the Protoss army and use it how you like. You can go for a Phoenix, which is one of the air units. You can go for a Phoenix and get quick scouting because they're very fast. You can hallucinate something like an Archon, which is this. These have a lot of health. These are actually an Archon. A hallucinated Archon will take the most damage from any unit. It'll actually charge of Void Ray, whereas something like Colossus won't, even though the Colossus has more health. This will charge a Void Ray, which is pretty useful to know. So if you want to do a timing attack with a lot of Void Rays, if you get hallucination, hallucinate some Archons, you can charge your Void Rays before you attack. So that's the main gateway units. Next we'll move on to HTs and DTs, which are a very functional unit again. So here's a DT. A DT is like a melee, is like the Zealot. It's a melee unit. It does a 45 damage attack and it attacks 1.69, which is quite good, a considerable amount. It has high DPS. But what's very, very good about the DTs is it's invisible. And unlike the Terran units, which have to have an upgrade and their invisibility relies on how much mana they have, the DT is infinitely cloaked. You will never be able to uncloak a DT. It's always cloaked. So you always have to, you could always have to force your opponent into getting detection if you go for DTs.
I am the blade of Shakuras.
So I'll show you now. So, look, if I attack move this. Why is it? Oh, I'm not used to this. If I attack move this SCV into this, he's not going to do anything. But as you've seen there, he died because obviously he's invisible. So the SCV couldn't see him. He could see the SCV. And then, actually, I'll bring him back down here. The next one is the High Templar. So this is a Dark Templar. This is a High Templar. And High Templars come from this building, and Dark Templars come from this building. And these are very interesting units because you can mix them. So here's a High Templar. It has 2 casts. One is called Feedback, and this actually, let me grab a Raven so I can show you efficiently.
Raven online. Raven online.
Alright, so when you see a unit like a Raven, because it has the mana, it can be feedbacked. Only units that have mana can be feedbacked. So what happens is the High Templar, when it feedbacks a unit, it will take all the energy off that unit and it will deal 1 unit damage to that unit for every for every unit it takes of mana, right? So it has 200 energy. If I feedback it, I do 200 damage. Obviously the Raven only has 140 health, so it dies instantly. And this applies to any unit that has mana. So the Ghosts, the Battle Cruisers, the Thors, the Medevacs, they can all be feedbacked and insta-killed. Just a lot of fun. And then the last one is something called Storm, which is, if you ever played Command & Conquer Relic 2, it's the Thunderstorm of that pretty much, but a lot smaller. So here is, oh actually this feedback is Sentry as well, because this is always funny. Oh wait, I can't feedback at Sentries, this is my own unit. Alright, here's a Storm. It does 80 damage over a square spot for 4 seconds, which is 20 damage a second. Boom. That's very good. Okay, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to show you. So if you get 2 of these, 2 Templars, it can be a Dark Templar and a H Templar, it can be 2 of each, that's all good. You can actually morph them together, and this forms one of those Archons I just showed you. Now these are really good units. They do 34 damage to a standard unit or 47 to a biological unit. So something like the Zealot is a biological unit. It's a light and it's biological. So this does extra damage to it. And it also does splash damage as well. So if I Q, oh wait, no, I need. So let's get these 4 lined up and I'll show you. Oh. So if you've seen that briefly, so these are obviously their health bars. This one's the one he attacked, so he takes the brute force. But like I said, with splash damage, everything radiates from the center of the attack, which is this unit. So he obviously is not gonna. The splash is not gonna attack that one because it's too far. But if I attack the one in the center, I attack them all because it's radiating from the center of this unit. So, okay, there's that. As you can see, these have a lot of health. 350 v10. Sorry, 350 health plus 10. And with the Protoss units, how their health works is, you can see there's the top line, which is blue, and then the bottom line, which is green. The blue is their outer shield, which regenerates. The inside, the green, is called their hull, or whatever you want, the skeleton, whatever you want to call it. That does not regenerate. You cannot get a Protoss unit 100% back to health if its hull is damaged. You know, you can. This has 10 hull, right? So it can have 1 hull and 350 shields, but at maximum it will never go over 1 hull. But its shield will always regenerate back to full. Okay, so next units are the Stargates. So we have a Phoenix, Void Ray, and a Carrier. The Phoenix is the first, quite a light unit. Did see them earlier when I was fighting with the Thor. This, as you can see, has mana again, so it can pick up certain things. Sorry, it has a certain cast, and that cast allows it to pick up units. So if you come here, they'll pick up a unit. And if you have a bunch of Phoenix, they'll all attack the Phoenix, the picked up unit. Let's cancel that. Phoenix are only air to air, so they cannot attack ground. So if you're attacking ground units, sorry, if you're about to go into an engagement and there's ground units, they're gonna die. Next is the Void Ray, which is very fun. And let me show you as well. Let me. Alright, so here's a Void Ray, which attacks air and ground. They're pretty slow. They're pretty good units, especially in large numbers. And this is going to be a bit confusing for the first time watching. They have 2 attacks. One is their standard unupgraded attack, and then as they attack further, after 6 seconds, their attack power upgrades. And I will visualize this for you. It goes from standard, like, I think it's 12 to 15. And I can do that by shooting this unit here. So if you look at that, you'll just see it's a very simple beam. It'll go in a second, and then it'll go again now. And then when it's at this point, it's doing its full damage. So there's a 5-second cooldown. If it doesn't attack anything in 5 seconds, it will lose its charge. So you'll see a lot of professionals in teams or games, they'll you know, micro their units while constantly attacking, just briefly to keep the charge. And you'll even see them do this on their own units, like on Void Rays. You know, you'll see like Void Rays attacking Void Rays just to keep their charge, which is really sick. And that shows good control. Next is the Carrier, which is the tier 3A unit. This is the big boy pretty much. It's 6 supply, it costs a lot, and as its name suggests, it carries smaller units, which you actually have to pay for. These are down here, they're called interceptors. With the Carrier, you have to get the Oh, what's that called again? Fleet beacon. Yeah, this one. You have to get the fleet beacon. You can tell I never built these. You have to get a fleet beacon.